Hello everybody and welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candace Marie. It is Friday night, July 2nd here. We are back doing my lives. Let me get signed in real quick. So just basically we're back doing my Friday night thing where we are taking a look at live charts, answering questions. Check out the links below. Everything is pinned, the PayPal, all of that stuff is in there. We are doing one question and you guys can see the prices below. Also, I am now offering one question about Synastry. In order for me to take a look at your chart, I am going to need the following information. So I'm going to need your exact time, date, location of birth so we can look at your natal chart. Those of you guys who are in the chat, it's nice to see you. Welcome back. How's it going? It's about to be a holiday weekend here in the States, so I'm already hearing all kinds of fireworks and things that are going on. Maybe you'll hear some of that stuff in the background, maybe you won't. But we're charging $40 for one question just to better understand either a natal aspect in your horoscope or by transit. So you can check out the links below. Want to get to some business before we get started. A couple things. We now have a couple different levels now on my channel. If you want to support my channel, those of you guys who watch, I don't only do the readings every Friday, but also I am putting out a Monday morning weekly video where I talk about the astrology for the month ahead. I do cover new and full moons along with any other important transits and go in depth as to what you should expect for the week ahead. So for the tiers, we've got level one for $2.99, and that's just to support the channel. Those of you guys who watch and learn or just appreciate my kind of overviews, thank you guys for your support. That's the level one. We got somebody new that came in today. We've also got level two. So for level two, it's $4.99. You get a shout out from me, and you also get to be able to contribute to the channel. And then new is level three for $44.99. You're going to get the shout out. You're also going to have the ability to support the channel, and you're going to get one question during my lives once a month. So out of the 4 weekly that I generally do, sometimes it'll be 3 depending on what I've got going on in my schedule. You'll get kind of priority lists, and I'll make sure that I get to you first. Not a bad deal if you're gonna buy a question from me once a month anyway. It's a great way to support the channel. So those of you guys who are doing that, awesome. Thank you so much. If you're just learning and you're here to watch and you just want to support in that way, that's fine too. I have this set up so that way we can kind of do this in a public forum. So all transit charts that we're going to look at or natal charts that we're going to look at are public. Thank you, Lorianna. I appreciate it. It's nice to see you, Kristen. Hello, good morning in India. Thank you for watching. We got some shout outs. We've got Emma R and Susan Wexler. Thank you guys for supporting the channel. I really appreciate it. It's because of people like you that make this possible. And the more that I'm, kind of starting to focus on growing this channel, some of you guys have been watching my videos for years. I used to do a lot of work with Astrology. I did some work also on a couple other podcasts, and I worked a little bit with the Peace Stealer. Took a break, went through my Saturn return, and I have been back since the beginning of the year. So my focus is to not only be able to grow the channel so I can give you guys up-to-date astrological horoscopes and transits, but hopefully start kind of building what's going to be a series of videos that's going to be more educational and kind of creating evergreen content for you guys so you can learn more about transits or natal aspects. So support to the channel makes it possible for me to be able to do that and make the time to do that. A couple things I'm working on is I'm hoping to set up a study club. It's something that I'm kind of working on right now and trying to figure out the best time to kind of bring that together, and playing around with some other ideas that I have for just maybe being able to do some astrology mentorship and kind of working with some other people. I'm always open to your guys' comments and your suggestions. If you have questions about specific things in astrology, or if you want to learn more about things, please let me know. And if you're not aware, I also have a video that comes out every Monday morning, also on my podcast that I do with Mike the Peace Stealer. It is the Midheaven podcast. You guys can check it out. It's also on my page for my other channels. But I have a podcast coming out every week that talks about current astrology and current events and all kinds of other things. We just actually we're just getting ready to drop a new video that's coming out Monday that's about the nodes. So go and check that out because we have lots of cool, fun topics that we talk about. It's more kind of lighthearted, comedic stuff because the world needs, more laughs right now. But today we are here doing readings. So if you guys want to purchase a reading, if anybody has a question about a transit or something in their natal chart, let me know. You can check out the link below and you can purchase that. And once we get people who start purchasing those, we're going to pull the charts up and we're going to look at them and see what happens. So those of you guys who are new to my channel, welcome. You can also see all of my links below if you want to follow my social media. I'm pretty active on Instagram if you like memes. And you can see a little bit more of my day-to-day posting in my stories there. Otherwise, I kind of like have been thinking about, it's like I've got content that's coming out every 2 days, whether it's my weekly stuff or I'm doing this and then also the podcast. So we're putting a lot of stuff out there. Hi, Kristen. I don't have a specific question. I'm just so excited if you look at my chart. Love and money is always on my mind if you have some insight. Thank you very much. I should save your chart, Kristen, huh? We've looked at it a couple times. Let me pull that up and let's see what's going on. 11/14/89. Scorpio sister. Is there anybody else who's from like the late 80s, early 90s? Some very unique astrology. I do post some fire memes, guys. You would never see it coming. There's some stuff that you guys would never expect. Gotta give the people what they want. Okay. Interesting spelling. Centralia. Washington. Are you still up there? Okay, so let's get this chart up for you. Let's see here. 1988. We got a 1992. Cool. Okay, so looks like we've got your, is this correct? November 14th, yes. Okay, 89, 1:28 p.m. Love and money always. So let's look a little bit about, let's just look at your chart first before I like bombard you guys and I put the outer transits on the outside. So when we look at relationships in this chart, we're always going to look at aspects that are happening within the 7th house. And we're also going to look at aspects that are happening to the 7th house Lord. For money and resources, I'm going to look at the 2nd house or the Lord of the 2nd. So we're really going to put a real focus and an emphasis on what's happening with Mars in her chart for finances, what's happening with the Sun in her chart for relationships. Okay. So anybody who's like an Aquarius rising, especially if you're like a late Aquarius rising, even an early Pisces, you might find that a little bit of this relates to you as well. All right, so a couple things. So let's start more so with the money stuff, and then we'll work into the relationship stuff. So Mars rules your 2nd house of resources. We look at your Mars being in the 8th house of joint resources with other people. So if you've got your 2nd house ruler in the 8th, there is an interesting conversation about how you're making money, whether you're bringing in money from other people, whether you're using the 8th house to make money. So this can be like anything between, investments or people paying you or you taking money from clients. It can also be about like working with the occult. Like I know we've talked a little bit about like you have like some either crystal or some like jewelry stuff. So that's kind of cool. To have the 2nd house ruler, 2nd house can be jewelry, it can be rocks, it can be physical things, especially stuff that you generate, that you create in the 8th, excuse me. Where you're having friction, and this is where I will show you what's going on now, is the fact that transit Uranus and transit Saturn are making some rather harsh aspects to your Mars. So for the last like 2 years, you've seen Uranus has been going back and forth in opposition to your Mars. So you've kind of seen like a flux in your finances, and things have come and things have gone. And you've seen a lot of transformation revolving around resources. Likely also like, do you have to go into debt to make money? That's an interesting question. The 2nd house deals with money that you make, but does it mean that you take out a loan? Do you have to buy supplies on a credit card, make the product and then sell it and then pay it back? That's an interesting kind of conversation that I would consider. The other thing is that you've got Saturn coming in from Aquarius in the 12th house, which is also kind of dinging your Mars. So for the better part of the next year, especially as we start to see that Saturn is now going retrograde, it's going to come into a square still pretty tightly, September going into October, before Saturn stations. So basically, Saturn square your Mars, Saturn ruler of the 11th house and also the 12th house. So are you making money in collaboration with other people? Do you need to be working with groups? Does it make sense to get your business more so kind of out in the open on the internet? Does there need to be some kind of like awareness of what's working and what is not working? So just between the Uranus opposition and also the square that you've had from Saturn, there can be this feeling of like you're weighing out your options and asking yourself, you know, am I going to continue to be able to make money this way? Is this going to be something that's resourceful? Is it working? That's the big question I would ask myself. You're 31, so according to annual perfections, you are in a 8th house year. So basically, 8th house meaning your exchange with other people. In theory, you can make more money that year. Your 8th house does deal with taxes or joint resources, ruled by Venus, Venus in the 11th. To me, that seems like, is there a possibility for you to collaborate with friends to be able to sell your products or sell your services? Is that something that you could do? Does it make sense for you to collaborate with like-minded people and be able to find a way to kind of merge together and either have a referral system? Maybe if you make jewelry, you've got somebody else that also sells stones, or you've got somebody else that also has like a boutique, and you find a way to better kind of get that stuff out there. Keep in mind, this is all 11th house territory where Saturn has gone through. So from my experience, especially people with from 1989, it's almost like the last 2 years were in preparation for whatever is going on now. In terms of, you know, other things that have been happening in your chart, especially pertaining to relationships, that 8th house year is very important because the 8th house year is where we change psychologically, we merge with another person, we open up and we become more willing to have joint resources. So when planets go through your 8th house this year, it will be pretty jam-packed. Equally, when there are aspects to your 8th house ruler, which would be Venus, it is also jam-packed. So one thing I want you to watch is when, like, you know, Venus and Mars come together, which they're going to very soon in Leo. That can be an opportunity for you to actually see an increase in both your resources, but also your sex life or your love life. This is going to be happening right around here, July 11th, especially when the moon shows up and it dings your Pluto, and it also dings Uranus in the second. So it tells me that there's something setting up, giving you the opportunity to be able to merge and transform the way that you work. It might mean that you're working in a new space, you're working with a new metal, you're doing something different and unique. This is a very interesting period of time, those couple days, where it's going to square all of your stuff and it's going to show you where you want to evolve and you want to grow. I'm metalsmith in sterling silver jewelry with crystals. This is my dream, but very difficult because the overhead is so high. You're spot on with everything you're saying. So this can be good for a number of different things. Like me personally, and I've told you this, like our birthdays are a couple days apart. So I'm also watching what happens during these transits because I know that it's going to be quite instrumental for kind of showing me where I need to assess things and like release things. Fixed squares set pressure up so you do work in all 4 areas of your life. As an Aquarius rising, you're going to see this huge focus and influence on relationships and relationships growing and passion growing in July and August because of all of these energies that are going through your 7th house. It's going to oppose your ascendant, square your 9th house, and it's also going to square Uranus in your 2nd. So it's like what you value in terms of relationships. I actually think it's going to be quite active. I'm also looking at Mercury coming into a conjunction with Jupiter in your 5th house. So I would look at maybe mid through the second half of July as an opportunity to connect with somebody more significantly. I also am kind of liking the fact that all these planets in Virgo are going to sextile your Jupiter, ruler of your 10th house, which is going to expand your career. So it looks like you get a little bit of everything. Everything is going to kind of come together all at once. Now, according to annual perfections, kind of going back to this, I really want you to pay attention to when planets enter into your 8th house. This is going to be starting around the beginning of September. When Venus goes in there, you go deeper with resources, deeper with making money, deeper with your partnerships and your relationships. And within this house, there will also be a Mercury retrograde. Don't fear the Mercury retrograde because all of them this year are in air signs, so it's about communication. They all make nice aspects to the nodes as well as Saturn, so it's supportive as long as you communicate. So then in September, at the end of September through October, when Venus is hovering around your Pluto and then Mercury begins to go retrograde, you start to have opportunities to really reevaluate if you're really ready to merge with other people, financially, sexually, emotionally, business-wise. That can be really good. Mercury retrograde is reassessing, am I making enough money to keep using these materials? Do I need to be charging more from what I'm offering people? Am I really ready to go deeper into a relationship? This will be an interesting one because it's going to come into some frictions with Pluto, which is quite important if you're a Scorpio. It's going to really bring about your philosophies when it comes to give and take in all relationships. And it's going to be colorful. So that is just so active, really, from the end of September until all of these planets move out of your 8th house, and then you're getting ready to start your birthday, and it becomes a 9th house year ruled by Mars. And then you have Mars conjunct your Pluto. Just a word to the wise. I'm looking at Uranus go retrograde. It's going to sextile Jupiter in your 5th, which is really great for your love life. But I'm looking at all these planets in your 8th. That tells me it's about to be the birth of something. There's a lot of fertile energy here. Like these are transits where women sometimes get pregnant. These are transits when sometimes it's the very birth or the beginning process of like fertile ground for like a new business. So there's something that's kind of merging there. So just be really mindful of like there's like a lot of fertility energy in November, especially when it's ruled by Venus. And it can be the merger of like you and your friend kind of line up and set things up business-wise and things. You're like, no, yeah, I know, but that's what I'm seeing. So just be really careful, especially as Saturn is trining your moon, ruler of your 5th house where you have Jupiter. So I could see like your creative business being your baby. I could see it being like this way of expressing yourself and being creative, but just be really mindful. Granted, we want to look at the solar returns and compare the solar returns. So that's something maybe you can do around your birthday, but Jupiter's on your ascendant. You can't go wrong with that all year, bringing more attention, more abundance, more luck to you. And as Jupiter comes into a square with Mars, I see you kind of like off to the races and you're really focusing on maybe investing in something where you want to take a new course, you want to learn something new to be able to have new tools so you can make more money. Celibate, yeah. For Scorpios, Jupiter is in Pisces this whole next year. So just be mindful that Scorpio's 5th house. So with trines happening to your sun and squares from your ascendant, you really want to look at that solar return. So I would say maybe give me a call in October and we'll compare your solar return chart to your progress chart just to make sure that that's not what's going on. But I could see that being possible. But there's lots of fertility with the opportunities to create new things also. Uranus in your 2nd house sextiling Jupiter makes me feel like you could design jewelry revolving around astrology, and you could make jewelry that's like specialty made for people's charts. So if you understand astrology and you know somebody's going through a transit, or maybe that they have a specific sun or moon placement, it reminds me a lot of like Vedic astrology. Like I feel like Vedic astrology will recommend like what fingers or, which hand or which wrist or where you wear certain gemstones. Like I love all of this energy of the South Node in your 9th house where you're receiving all of this knowledge about this type of stuff from past lives, especially because your sun is the ruler. And your future business partner or your future partner might be very culturally different or diverse than you in some way. So I could see you expanding and like working with people in other countries. Maybe you take on a guru or somebody who understands that and makes it more easily digestible and bringing that information to like a Western astrology kind of understanding. I would really look into that. I think that you would really understand it, especially since you have that Sun Mercury conjunction. So you could make like intuitive designed astrology stuff and people would buy that. Like I remember like talking to my Vedic astrologer and he was telling me like, oh, you need to wear opal and you need to wear peridot and you need to wear emerald and all this stuff. And I got super overwhelmed, but it would be really cool. And I feel like it's definitely something I would do if I gave somebody my chart and was like, here's my chart. Can you just make a ring or make something for me that's going to, you know, include all of these aspects? So studying specific stones and how they relate to planetary placements might be really, really, really like, that might be the moneymaker, girl. So let me know if you start doing that. I might be interested in it. Hopefully that was helpful. Watch for July and August stay a little hot and steamy, and maybe watch out for those exes. You might have an ex that comes back, or somebody from the past during the Mercury retrograde in Libra. Hopefully that was helpful, Kristen. All right, so looks like we've got Lorianna. All right, what should I know in regards to career? Would it be a good year to relocate for work career objectives? Good question. There's definitely a lot of that that's going on for Virgos. So I'm going to switch this chart over. Let's pull that up. So 9/8/88. And that's at 12:45 p.m. in San Juan. September 8th, 1988, 12:45 p.m. All right, let's take a look at your chart and see what you've got going on, Lorianna. So your question was about work, relocating for work objectives. Where are you living currently, if you don't mind me asking? Also, if you guys do make a purchase on PayPal, just let me know so that way I can check it so I don't overlook it, because I also have Super Chat, just so I make sure that I'm able to get to your questions too. I don't want to forget about you. Those of you guys who are just tuning in, check out the links below. You can ask one question. We're doing one question for 40, either a natal aspect or transit, or 65 for a Synastry question. Okay, so you're currently in Minneapolis. Where are you considering going to? Ooh, well, define this year. You mean within the next 6 months? Is that what you're asking? Personally, when you have Jupiter come into Pisces, further into Pisces, I think that I could see a move coming, but a lot of it depends on what you end up doing work-wise. So definitely work-wise, things get kind of interesting when Venus, which deals with where you're working, goes into your 10th house. So let me backtrack here. So I'm kind of loving looking for work from about August 11th on. Mike's calling me. And that's when Venus enters into your 10th house. And then when it connects with Mercury, I would look for possibly finding a job offer, hearing from somebody online, making some kind of connection around, give or take a couple days, around August 25th. Now, this is going to be very interesting because Saturn will be building into a trine with Venus. So to me, that looks very positive at the end of August for a potential opportunity. Granted, there will be a Mercury retrograde, so really pay attention. For all Virgos, the eclipses are really radically changing where you're living and where you're working, right? But a Mercury retrograde in the 10th is reevaluating, do I want this job? Do I want to go back to something else? Do I want to return somewhere else? Renegotiating the terms revolving around a job. So I would really want to make sure that all of that is very clear before you say, yes, I will take it. So be mindful that at the end of September, Mercury will retrograde back into your 10th house, and you're having to assess whether or not you're going to take the job or not. This will be going on clear until about maybe mid-October. At that point in time, it'll retrograde back and forth over your Mercury. So if you've submitted for jobs and you're waiting to hear back from them, and maybe you don't hear anything from them for a month or two, you'll probably be hearing more back from people right around that time. What I'm liking is that it trines Saturn. So it's like it really wants to make sure that you're going to get the salary that you want, that you're going to feel fulfilled in that job before you make a move. And I'm guessing that anywhere from the time that Jupiter is going direct in your 3rd house of movement, things get a little easier. If this were me, depending on when it works or doesn't work for you, I like the idea of you moving after the new moon in Sag, which is going to be taking place the beginning of December. I want to reiterate also, there will be a Venus retrograde happening in your second house of income. So it's really important that you budget accordingly and you make sure that if you're relocating to a place that's more expensive, or if you're having to cover moving fees, you're prepared for that, because it could cost a little bit more than you expect. And then you have all these planets moving into your third house. So to be honest with you, I like when, let's say, Saturn's direct, the sun's in your third, somewhere around February of 2022 seems like it's going to be an easier move. Doesn't mean that you can't move at the end of this year, but it's an easier move if that's what you decide to do. And it's all going to come into a trine with Pluto. So it's about also coming into contact with new friends, transforming your social groups, things like that. Let me see here. Lost my job after COVID and this year started a small biz. So can you work anywhere doing what you're doing? Is that possible? I mean, I'm going to tell you, there's no better time to move than when Jupiter and the Sun are hovering around your North Node. And from about, let's say, February, this is the sweet spot, the end of March. You know, when Jupiter and Neptune align in the fourth and you find this perfect place and it feels super serene and it's like your temple. Maybe you have a hot tub, maybe you have a pool, maybe you relocate somewhere near a lake. It's going to be something that's going to have some aspect of like emotional renewal, and it's going to feel good. And it will also, it'll square your ascendant. Many Sag risings are playing with the idea of being like, do I want to go to Mexico for a year? Do I want to go to Costa Rica? Do I want to try to live in another country? You know, or with that Jupiter conjunction that's happening in your third, it's like, do I want to road trip and travel around a little bit before I land somewhere? If you have the flexibility to do that, I would encourage you between now and the new year to kind of bop around and see what you like. Whether you visit a place for a couple days, you get in a van, you drive there, maybe you camp somewhere, you stay with a friend, you go check a place out with a sibling. Something like that will be positive in helping support the process of you getting to where you want to go. But I got to tell you, I really do think that you may have the potential to like still keep growing your business, especially when Mercury goes retrograde in your 10th house, but you may get a job that gives you the opportunity to relocate. So if that's the case, you know, it's not a bad time to go looking for work. But if you were to say, Candace, when's the best time for me to move, sign a lease, and like, you know, set up shop somewhere? March of 2022. So be flexible, give yourself some time, realize that you really could be out as early as the end of the year, but budgeting is key. Good luck with that business. I definitely think it's going to do well. I'm very excited to see Uranus come into a trine with your sun. I think it definitely wants you to get things moving and shaken. It definitely wants you to travel. It wants you to have more fun. It wants you to maybe meet people who are different culturally than you, and go to places you would not usually go. So I think that there's a lot of positivity behind that. You're just now coming out this next year of Saturn square your Pluto, so your goals have changed. And I definitely see a lot of growth now that you're coming out of those squares. Be mindful also that Saturn is about to make an opposition to your moon next year. So when Saturn makes an opposition to your moon, it's like you're probably going to pay a little bit more than you want to pay or that you're used to paying for rent. But I do see you settling into something. So I do think that it's going to be nice once you come out of that opposition. And it makes me wonder if you're going to like meet somebody somewhere else, and then that's going to make you even more likely to want to relocate somewhere. So if you are single and you're wanting to meet somebody, you can meet somebody and see who you align with and then decide if you want to go and visit them. Very adventurous for a Virgo. I like that Sag rising, and I like all those planets that you have in the 9th house. It's giving you the opportunity to travel, teach, learn, expand, and you know, keep in mind that North Node is in the 3rd house. So it's not about you being in planes in this lifetime or always going to other countries. You'll like that, but it's more about where can you go locally? You know, can you drive around in a car? Do you get a van and go to different places for a year and see where you want to call home? It's a lot of being on the road, not necessarily being in the air. Hopefully that is helpful for you. Yeah, girl, get out there, go on some road trips. It'll be really good for this chart. Especially you're coming out of some retrogrades and some eclipses in your 7th house. It is promising you there's the potential for a relationship that could be setting up as early as the end of this year. So good things are coming. All right, Penny. Thank you for your donation. let's take a look at your chart. Let's get your info in here. 10/21, 1970. And that is at 11:25 a.m. Always ready to hear about my love and business adventures. The 7th house stuff has been insane. Do let me know. Was it you hearing from the past? Did you have to clear something out? Did you have almost like a copycat come in? Like, what happened? I'm so fascinated for Sag risings, what's happened with those people. All right, Penny, let's take a look at what's going on with, I guess, love and work. That's what everybody wants to know about, huh? Love and business adventures. Very similar astrology, actually, looking at your chart. So you have this Sag rising. Wow, oh wow. Look at all these squares that you've been experiencing the last 2 or 3 years from planets in Capricorn in your 2nd house. That's been kind of dinging your 10th house. So now Saturn is coming into a trine with Uranus. So that's interesting. That's really kind of setting you up in a way where you can communicate differently, or maybe work more efficiently, more independently, or kind of finding your own way, especially in terms of resources. I think the most challenging thing that's going on is that you do have transit Pluto in Capricorn in your 2nd house coming into a square with Mercury in the 10th. So it makes me wonder, like, is there a clash of ideas or opinions revolving around resources and whether or not you can make more money? I'd be interested to hear what you do. But the good news is that, you know, Saturn is building into trines, especially over the next 2 years with your natal placements in Libra in the 10th house. So it's acquiring more wealth, building, getting more solid through partnerships and relationships. So it can be situations like, you know, what you're putting into it and what another person is putting into it and helping kind of grow. It depends on what you do. All that Libra in the 10th house, it makes me wonder, you know, Venus in the 11th, you work with groups of people. Do you do some type of Venus type or Libra type of occupation? Pluto's also in opposition to your moon. Wowzers. So Pluto oppose your moon and square your natal Mercury. What's going on here? Are you married? Is there a situation where you feel like there's an imbalance in the money that's being made and resources that are coming in? High school counselor. I want to know what's going on with your emotional stuff. Is there something going on with a family member that's having crisis? Do you feel like you're having issues with a mother figure? Are you struggling and feeling like you want to buy a house? Do you feel stuck in a relationship? That square is something else. That's a pretty heavy square that's going to go on for the next 2 years. Square your Mercury, which rules your 9th house of education, questioning whether or not you need to go higher in your education or higher in what you're doing, and being able to give guidance so you can make more money. It's also going to come into a square with your sun. So it tells me that you may have some stuff that comes up at the end of this year with the school that you're working for, funding stuff, where people who are superiors, who have probably been in higher positions within that school or even within that school district, they're going to reevaluate what's going on with the funding and whether or not they can keep people on, whether or not they can give people raises, whether or not they can bring people back. I really want to reiterate this. I think there was a Venus retrograde. Let me double check. I think there was a Venus retrograde like this that happened at the very beginning of 2014. I'm going to look. Give me just a second. And I wonder if you had a job change then, because there may be something similar that happens. Yes. So the beginning of 2014, there was a Venus retrograde. And that's very important because it's the ruler of your 7th. So it'll either be a situation where there's a reevaluation of whether or not you feel like you're getting paid enough, whether or not you're going to get a raise, whether or not, if you are in a relationship, your partner maintains their job. It really kind of depends. But the opposition to your moon and the square to the planets in the 10th tells me something's got to give. And it all deals with whether or not you feel like other people are supporting you, both in relationships, but also in your career. So let me know. That Pluto moon stuff is rather intense. Hey, Catherine, we're doing one question for astrology. So if you want, you can book it either through the super chat or you can book it through the link below through the PayPal. Just send me your question once you do that, and I will pull up your chart. Just so everybody knows, we're doing all of this publicly. So if you have questions, your chart's going to be put on the internet. So just be mindful of that. I feel stuck. I've been going through lots of changes. Pretty positive for the past 2 years. Well, my question is where are you feeling like there needs to be more growth in terms of the money that you are making? Because something's got to give. Pluto Moon oppositions are interesting because I oftentimes see that as a situation where people start becoming more fixated on working with psychology or wanting to go deeper into better understanding how people work emotionally, and all of the squares also to the ruler of your 9th house. It really makes me wonder if there's room for some kind of growth or continuing education, you know, and it can be changes also. Like sometimes because the 9th house deals with like older, you know, like not just like high school, but it can be college and things like that. Like people start shifting things and thinking a little bit about, well, do I want to be changing, you know, the grades that I'm counseling or the kids that I'm teaching? Just check we've got the link below, or you can see it scrolling along paypal.me/beyondtheveiltarot. But I think it's pinned if you check the chat, if you go up to the top of the chat. What I'll tell you, Penny, is that this is going to just be incredibly clear, especially I see some potential rethinking of job stuff that's going to be coming up for you right around September going into October, when Mercury goes into this part of your chart and it comes into a square with Pluto. I would look for the writing on the wall at the end of September, questioning whether or not you're actually going to be making more money at your current position, whether or not you feel like you're getting enough support. I'm more interested to hear if you're open to public speaking within my community and friendships. That's wonderful. That's definitely Pluto square Mercury. I also wonder, what about publishing? Or if you're in the realm of doing some kind of guidance counseling, do you have any interest in working with other educational like groups and being able to start being more involved in like helping develop educational plans, writing of textbooks, developing of courses, things like that? I like the idea of you doing public speaking with Mercury in your 10th. I feel like it shouldn't be limited just to public speaking. It could also be you sharing your experiences of what you've learned through the process of being able to guide other people, whether they're, you know, kids, high schoolers, whatever. I also wonder if it's a setup for you thinking about whether or not you want to publish something, because I see this being more about publishing. And I love your Sun conjunct Mercury. You have a lot to say. You're definitely here to be able to guide other people and teach other people. But this is about really going out there and putting it out there. And over the next 2 years, it's who you align with and whether or not you align with people who are going to give you that platform. Saturn and Jupiter in your 2nd house are telling you invest in yourself, focus on the self-esteem. It's all air energy. And I was telling a client earlier today, they had a lot of Libra in their chart just like you, and they were like, I don't understand, I don't see the changes happening. And I'm like, well, okay, you can see earth, you can see water, you can see fire, you can't see air, right? You can see wind, and obviously that's the effects of, you know, fire and air. But with air, it's all transparent in a way, it's intellectual. So you want to look at what you're learning, what you're hearing, what conversations you're having, what you're writing, what you're thinking. That's the Saturn work that's going on. And so I feel like this is a setup for you when Mercury goes back and forth over your 10th house, who you can align with to get in line to start doing this public speaking. But it's not limited to that. You can work with school boards, you can work with educational centers. I really feel like you have a lot to share with what might be like school boards or even districts when it comes to developing courses that you know, kids actually respond better to, working with companies that are producing textbooks, going in and working with kids who might be either younger or older and guiding them and setting them up for where they're going with their career. That's what I've been doing with my voice and sharing my practices, but wanting to grow universally and creatively. Bingo. So that's the other thing, is that all of these planets are in friction right now to your Saturn. Your natal Saturn, you have the in conjunct the quincunx. So Saturn in the 5th. I want to be creative. I need this outlet for creativity, but you show up in a very professional way. So it's kind of learning to like reconcile and realize that there can be some creativity that links up with the way that you go about teaching people. I really think all of this starts to really come together for you next year. And Jupiter is hovering on your North Node. So realize that every single time Jupiter is aligning with your North Node, you're becoming more in touch with what it is that you want. It's there right now. Jupiter, chart ruler. So what are you investing in? How do you want to make money? How can you make money through instructing and guiding and being able to use your intuition? Jupiter will be back. It will be conjunct that again, and that will be the very beginning of next year. So it makes me feel like a lot of the changes that are coming are pushing you in the direction of like actually either doing some kind of consulting or doing some kind of work where you're getting paid to speak. Second house, voice. It's your voice, what you have to say. And Saturn's only going to trine that for the next 2 or 3 years. So the sweet stuff really starts to come in right around April of 2022. So it's interesting to see what's going to set up for you in the new year. Hopefully that was helpful. I really, really, really feel like you're going to be making more money creatively next spring. And don't underestimate how that might be creative. You know, it might be that you publish something or you publish a book or some kind of guidance for younger people. And that might be what actually gets you started. Hopefully that's helpful. Thank you, Brittany. Solar return is next week. Anything jumping out at you? Always interested in relocating and career. I love my live reading. Cool. Nice to see you back. Happy almost birthday. Let's get your chart up here. 7790. That's one of my best friend's birthdays. You guys have a lot of Cancer Cap in your chart. Thank you, Penny. 10:12 p.m. And that'll be Grand Rapids, Michigan. All right. I would love to take crypto. I'll take all your crypto, Catherine. Let's see. Venmo, PayPal. Those are the two that I have. I would love, love your crypto. Let me look at Brittany's and I'll pop on over and see if we have some other ideas. All right, so Brittany, your birthday's coming up. So you are coming into your, well, first of all, hold up. You're going to be 31, yeah? That's what it looks like. I'm trying to do math. It looks like you're going to be 31. So you are moving into an 8th house year. You might want to listen to a lot of the stuff that I spoke about and talked about to somebody who's just going through that. But right now you're in a 7th house year. So I want to talk about this because you got a lot of activity going on in your 7th house right now. Did you meet somebody? Did you just connect with somebody? Is there some kind of action going on in your love life? You got to tell me because there's some nice stuff that's setting up there right now. I hope so. North Node hit your Venus. There's all kinds of action in your 7th. 7th house year, which you have for only a couple more days, is reiterating like when planets go into your 7th house and like people that you meet and like relationship stuff that's going on. So to me, it looks like there's some really interesting stuff that's setting up there. You know, as you move into your 8th house year, it's going to activate anything in Virgo when planets go through Virgo or a Mercury retrograde. It's the ruler of the 5th. So I'm kind of looking at like, man, things could be getting really hot and heavy when Mars and Venus move into your 8th house. Because Mars rules your 3rd of moving, Venus is 4th. So did I read that right? Were you thinking about maybe relocating? Yeah. So yeah, that definitely could happen, especially if the work shows up. As all these planets move through their clear all the way until about October. Work stuff's interesting because the South Node's moving through your 10th house. So I'm not saying you can't move. It's just not really about that right now. It's not a huge focus on work. It's more where you want to live. As the North Node's moving through your 4th house, it's like, where do you feel comfortable? Where it feels like home? Where do you want to get situated? That may not fully set up until the node changes into Taurus. Right now with Gemini, it feels like you're going back and forth between two places or two ideas, and you're kind of keeping it loose. But once that nodal shift changes at the beginning of the year, I think that's when things change. I am also watching Venus, which is going to go retrograde over your moon, which tells me actually the work stuff might show up right at the end of the year, so be patient, because the moon rules where you work. So that might all set up, getting you ready to go. So if you do want to make a move, it's most likely to happen closer to the new year. So are you going back and forth and thinking about two different places? Let me know. There's an eclipse that's going to happen also around November, I want to say 19th. That's going to be in Taurus. And that's in your 4th house. So it's like right on your IC. So it's grounding you out and bringing you specifically into, like, honestly, where you need to be living. So it's really going to pan out, like, let's say November through the new year, and then you're going to make that segue and you're going to make that change, especially as the North Node trines Pluto. So I'm really digging all of that shift for you. Where are you thinking about going? 4th house ruled by Venus, Venus in Gemini. It's at a Gemini degree. Do you have like a sibling or a cousin or a friend that lives somewhere else or in a city that you're contemplating? Have you been talking to them about maybe moving so recently? I'm also interested, if you tell me what city you live in now, I can do the solar return. I'll do the solar return for where you live, for your natal chart. Those of you guys who have questions about solar returns, all astrologers have different perspectives. Recently, I was talking to one of my really good friends. Her name is Rose Theodora. Maybe you follow her on Instagram or on any social media. She's a great astrologer, one of my really good friends. I love chatting with her all the time. And we had a nice long chat the other day about solar return readings. And she was asking me about, you know, where's best to have her birthday. And then she sent me a link that was an astrologer talking about how where you were born is the anchor of your chart. This whole spiel changed my whole perspective on solar returns. And she encouraged me to go back in time and look at solar returns from my place of birth, and they are scary accurate. So some astrologers believe if you have a birthday somewhere, you can change the fate of your future year. Maybe a little bit. Really, you need to spend some time there. So if you're going to be there for most of the year, it could make sense. But I am actually almost sold on doing solar returns and where you were born. So let me pull that up for you really quick, and we'll go a little bit into that just for fun. Obviously, we won't do all of it, but we'll get as close as we can. Okay, Grand Rapids. Oops. There we go. So this is going to be your solar return chart for 2021. Might want to take a screenshot of this, girl. I do have family that lives in Marquette. Somebody who's somewhere else should be saying, like, whether it's friends or family, like, oh, come stay here for a little bit. Feel it out. See if you like it. This is because of the eclipse. This is because of the retrograde. And eventually you will move to another place, whether you do it, you know, in the beginning of the year, you do it at the end of next year, because there's a Mars retrograde there at the end of 2022. So let's talk about right now. Off the bat, this is insanely good for your career. I'm looking at this 10th house and my eyes pop out of my head. So you've got a Virgo rising this year, North Node in the 10th house, Moon in the 10th house, Mercury in the 10th house. And look at that Taurus midheaven. It's solid. So I'm liking this. I feel like the most important thing, obviously, yeah, it is your career. And you might actually see some stuff that's going to play out more so around you moving right around when the sun moves into Sag, or planets move into Sag. So November, December is when a move is more likely, because the South Node's in your 10th house. The South Node's in your 4th house. The North Node in your 10th house is about career advancement, communications. The Moon means it's very busy here when it comes to work. Mercury there means there's a lot of you talking about business and moving. Worst case scenario, maybe you're back and forth for 6 months, or you fill it out for 6 months until you really decide that you want to live there permanently. I would definitely move with this chart. And I feel like a lot of the career success is actually really going to either hit January, February of 2022, or it's going to be May, June, July of 2022. It'll be one of those two times, because look at Saturn in your 6th. Straightening out your schedule, straightening out your workspace, where you're working, how you're working, starting your own business. Awesome. Big business year, girl. This is a big business year. This is going to be really good for you. Like, I feel like you're going to have too much stuff going on in March, April, May. It looks a little crazy. It may be more challenging for relationships this year, which sounds kind of crazy with Jupiter on your descendant. Somebody can show up, but you're going to feel like it's a juggling act between relationships and work. But here's what's cool. Jupiter squares the nodes. So it says you need other people in order to move and succeed. You need to move. You need to be more open to relationships. You need to be open to partnering with people, offering services or something to other people, going into a business partnership, bringing relationships in, so that way you can move more into the assertiveness of the 10th house. Yeah, if the astrocartography, especially if you have like a Sun, Moon, Venus line, you know, maybe a Mercury line, depending on your chart that you have, but everything will come full circle come the end of this year. The end of next year, right before your birthday. So when I say the end, I mean like June, July. Also, hi, Mars and Venus in the 12th house. Hello, that is some sexy stuff. There's going to be something that's going on that's like really hot and steamy right after your birthday. It can be that there's like relationships behind the scenes this year. You may feel like cutting some of this stuff off closer to like February, especially if you're moving, but girl, have fun. Mars and Venus in the 10th is definitely like lots of bedtime pleasures, especially square Uranus. It makes me feel like every 4 months or so, your love life might change a little bit. And they might have things that start and then kind of taper off. Also, this means that people are admiring you and you're not even aware of it. So just be aware that you don't always see opportunities that are in front of you, but it's really good. This is really good. I would just say try to set the goal that you want to have all of the business stuff fully flushed out around this time next year. You got to give yourself that much time. Focus on moving first, really before February of next year, and everything else will follow. Happy birthday to you. Hopefully that is helpful. I see lots and lots of good things. You'll look back at this year and you will remember this is the year that you really built community, and through the support of friends, you went further into your personal authority, your personal power. It's going to be very exciting. I see your hidden messages. You're going to get it. Watch out what you asked for, man. There's going to be somebody's going to have their eye on you. And they may tell you, they may not tell you, but somebody is kind of watching you. You're going to have an admirer that's going to be really interested in you this summer. Okay? All right. Let's see here. Oh, Connie. What's your Venmo? It's at Beyond the Veil. Just let me know when you send that Venmo, because I'm trying not to leave my phone on the desk when I work, because I'll get distracted. People are always blowing me up. Let's see. What's the deal here? Oh, okay, so we got Penny. Let's see. Got it? Huh? Let me see. Hold on. Oh, we got some people who came in through PayPal. Yeah, so last call for readings, guys. We're going to shut it down. I sent PayPal. I see you, Koncha. You're on my... Aren't you on my schedule? I feel like I saw your name somewhere around here. Hopefully we get to chat soon. Okay, so we've got Amber and we've got Koncha. You guys sent it a minute apart, so we get to Amber and then you will be next, Koncha. So let's turn that off. So 6/26/82. You guys are funny. It's like last call and everybody scrambles to buy drinks. They all come in at the end. 11:28 p.m. Lafayette. June 26, 82, 28. Any windows of opportunity for relationship in the next 6 months? Good question. Let's see what's up. Let's see what's up. All right, so 6 months for relationships. We want to look at Mercury. We want to look at your 7th house. Off the bat, I mean, you do have some planets that are heading there. So here's what's going good for you right now, Amber. Number one, we've got the sun moving into your 5th house of romance. It makes me wonder, is there still some clearing out that's going on? Are you reflecting on the past? Are you thinking about the past? Is there something that you need to let go? The fact that Mars and Venus are in your 6th tells me that there is some like cleaning or clearing that's happening. It can also mean that work shows, love life somehow is connected to coworkers, or you could meet people at work. That is also the case because you're a Virgo descendant. Where I think things get the most colorful is going to be when these planets actually enter into your 7th house and Mercury is conjunct your sun. So this is going to be the most active from about July 14th, give or take a day, until Mars and Venus enter into your 7th. So it's pretty active until about mid-August. And in early August, the sun will align with Mercury. So it makes me wonder, do you meet somebody at the gym? Do you meet somebody walking the dog? Do you meet somebody when you're going to the grocery store, right? Doesn't sound glamorous, but these are all Virgo things. And just going out of your usual routine. So if you're used to shopping at a certain place, or maybe you're thinking about taking a course or like a workout class or a fitness class, if you're wondering whether or not you should go out and do drinks with your coworkers, do it, especially the next 2 months. The most interesting, I also think, is going to be when Venus is hovering around your moon. And somebody might be interested in you as early as, well, August 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th. And then Mercury and Mars line up. So there's some passionate stuff happening about as early as the end of August. Can't go wrong with all these planets in your 7th house because it tells me that there's somebody who has an interest in you. All of these aspects are also going to meet and come into your 8th and then go retrograde. So keep in mind, there is a reevaluation of relationships that's going on at the end of September, going into October. I really want you to pay attention when like Mars and all of these planets align around the beginning of October. There's definitely like, well, is this for me? Is this not for me? You can be questioning whether or not it's a good match because it's conjunct Saturn. So it's also whether or not that person can show up for you. Relationships seem more stable, pretty much post, let's say, mid-October, and then things level out a little bit. Mercury going retrograde back and forth over your Mars is like, are you mine or not? Are we in a relationship or are we not? It's like this more kind of possessive quality. I wonder, do you have a tendency to date people who are possessive? Do you find it more challenging to get people to commit to whether or not you guys are in a committed relationship? Moon in the 7th is always busy, right? People come and people go, but Mars being in your 7th is you need somebody who claims you or you want to claim someone. That seems to be very important. Let me know, let me know. Those seem to be the best days though. And I feel like a relationship, it could very much set up by the time the North Node's conjunct your Venus in the 3rd. And it's having conversations with all these planets in your 8th house. It's about communicating and being very clear about what you need when it comes to relationships. So be mindful of that, you know, Venus in Gemini likes to communicate. There might also be doubles. I'm also looking at the fact that your Venus is in opposition to Uranus. So there's a lot of change of fate in relationships in your life. People come in and people go. But I would go and study about the North Node transiting your Venus because I find it very important in your chart. It's very karmic too because it rules the 8th house. You got to watch out for people who are in relationships or people who aren't ready. You know, it might be that you're interested in somebody, but they're not ready. And like you kind of start to see that in September going into October and you're like, whoa, man, you're not ready yet. Like I'm taking a step back, right? That might actually need to happen. Let me know. I definitely think things are gonna start happening for you. For you to see real relationship stuff take place, you need some strong transits happening to your Mercury because it rules your 7th house. Well, Saturn is hanging out in your 12th and it's coming into a trine with Mercury. You know, I have seen other clients who have these aspects where people from the past came back and you gave it a second go and it worked. Even if it's from people from a long time ago, it can work as long as they're ready now. Yeah, that's what's going on. You need to, I'm not gonna say control them because, you know, love is not possession, but you want somebody who's like, that's mine, right? Ruler of the 2nd in the 7th. You want to be claimed. And also the moon in Virgo is very particular, okay? So you need somebody who's also like gonna be really good when it comes to like making plans and like showing up for you and like being around. But because your moon squares Mercury and Neptune, there's this feeling of like, who's in charge, right? Focus on whether or not people back up what they're telling you. You wanna see that their actions are behind what they're telling you, what they're saying. So you need to communicate very clearly and tell them what you need and see if they show up. Give people the opportunity to show up, especially during the retrograde. I don't have the same perspective that other people have about some of these retrogrades because Mercury is going to retrograde in October. It's going to trine Jupiter in your 12th. It's going to trine your Mercury and it's going to come into aspects with your Venus. I mean, it's not, will somebody show up? It's how many will show up. You know, is somebody going to come in at the last moment and go like, okay, I'm ready now, like, you know, try to like win you over, because I have a feeling that's what's going to happen. He's changing his actions. Interesting. Give him until October. Watch what happens, because I've seen several other clients with some of these same aspects with Venus in Gemini, Mercury in the 4th, where it's like a lover from frickin' middle school comes back, or like lover, that's weird, but first crush, whatever, first boyfriend, all kinds of those things, they can come back and it's like, oh, you know, I've divorced my wife and I've always been in love with you, like now I'm ready type of stuff. It's now or never. If they can't get their shit together by November, move on. Good luck, good luck, good luck. All right, so let's move over to Koncha, and then I did see... I got you, Fiona. Don't worry. I got you. Nice to see you. Nice to see you. I have your chart. I'll pull it up. Give me just a second. Okay, so let's look at Koncha. Okay, where's that info that you plugged in? May 7th, 86. We got a Taurus in the house. 11:03 a.m. Glendale Heights, Illinois. Here we go. 11:03. Question is, interested in a love reading? Anyone special heading my way? Well, oh man, Leo rising. Another Venus in Gemini. How many of you people are twin flame people? Raise your hand. I want to know. I've seen so many Venus and Gemini people recently with the oppositions to Saturn and Sag, or Uranus and Sag. Like that whole bunch is like, everything is crazy. You guys have twos of everything coming in, or you're dealing with meeting one person and then meeting another, or like waiting. There's something like that going on. So let's see. Well, I mean, you know, the good thing is that all these planets are on your ascendant, so you should be strutting your stuff. We need to see Saturn come out of these squares with Uranus, because right now there's like a tug of war going on for who's in charge. Being that Uranus is at the top part of your chart, hovering around your sun, and it's coming into a square with planets on your ascendant, it's about you right now. It's not about other people. If other people want to pursue you, they got to chase you. So I think you're definitely going to see this being a theme, especially having had Mars in opposition to your planets in your 7th. So it feels like you're either really busy doing you, or you're really busy at work, and it's not easy for relationships to set up. Saturn does not deny, he just delays, okay? So just realize there's just delays that are going on. And when it comes out of these oppositions and these squares, it gets a little bit easier. So February, June, December, these are where there's like high friction going on in opportunities for relationship. But let's talk about some other stuff. You've got a Juno return coming up, which I think is pretty significant when it comes to dating. I could see a little bit of back and forth that you're doing with somebody that you meet either online or somebody that you're talking to a lot who might live in a different part of town in September. I also get the opinion, I also get the feeling that when Juno goes direct and it aligns with your natal Juno, somewhere around the end of September, that's setting up for possibly meeting someone. That's also when Saturn is coming to closer conjunction and it's about to station direct in your 7th house. So I'm kind of feeling like love is more so likely September on. There's some special dates. I call these Cinderella transits. This is when Venus will conjunct with Juno in your chart. October 12th through the 19th, pay attention to meet somebody. And then again, really strong October 26th through November 2nd. Looks like love at first sight. Venus Uranus conjunct Juno. He might be a little younger than you, so just be mindful that he's going to be younger, playful, maybe culturally different. All that energy vibes really well with Aquarius. It can mean that like a friend sets you up at a party, maybe you go to a holiday party, you meet somebody, that can happen, but that's very electric. Like I really like that for you. And then there will also be, in the future, I'm always thinking way off into the distance. There's definitely a lot of like, does this work for me? Does this not work for me? As of around Christmas time. And then the real kind of showdown where you're going to know whether or not something is working is going to be February through April of 2022, when all these planets go into Aquarius. But I kind of have a good feeling about Mars and Venus aligning in your 7th. It makes me feel like maybe you're going on a trip with somebody, solidifying a relationship. So I definitely think that that's possible. But yeah, these eclipses, that last eclipse that we had in Gemini was in direct opposition of Uranus. So did you have like a separation or a breakup, or did something suddenly happen in June in regards to like some romantic stuff? Did somebody pop in? So many twin flames. I mean, that eclipse that happened in June, there's something really significant that's happening in December, because that's the closing lunation for that. So there's some kind of completion. When there is that full moon that completes in your 5th house, it can be this feeling of like falling in love. So it seems like there's something like that that's going to happen closer to the end of this year. You really need about like end of November through February to sort that out. Saturn's also trining your Venus too. All you Venus and Geminis. You know, Venus in Aquarius too, Venus in Libra. You guys, communication is key. Expressing what it is that you need with Saturn. Saturn is the authority. But something about this looks really good. It's just, man, Saturn squaring your Pluto. You need to be meeting people that are outside of your home, or people who are ready for what you're ready for. So if you're looking to relocate, or if you're looking for somebody who wants like a domestic connection, that's really, really important in this chart. Like you need somebody who's ready for the things that you want, you know? Let's see. Hi, Lynn. Thank you, JD. Send me your info. I will plug in your chart in just a second. I got to hop on over to Fiona in just a second. Let me know, Koncha. I know we're going to be talking soon, but something about this, it makes me feel like it's about you. All these planets in Leo, it's about you. And people are going to chase after you, or people are going to want your attention, but practice restraint. It's all about you right now. It's really going to be like this for the better part of the next 2 months. It's like the first, 10 days of July, the first 10 days of August, it's all going to be about you, how you look, how you're carrying yourself, all that stuff. Sometimes the best solution is to move. Can't get rid of them. Move. All right, let's pop on over to Fiona. Fiona, I'm excited to see what's going on. I'm not excited to hear that there's a bidding war happening though, but I'm not surprised that you're moving, or thinking about buying property. So let's pull that up. And we also have, hold up, I don't want to forget anybody here. We have somebody else. So there's Fiona and April. Actually, I'm not sure which one was first. I think it was April. So I'm gonna do April and then Fiona. So just stay with me. 5171, we've got another Taurus. And this is for April. San Francisco at 8:03 a.m. May 1st, 71, 8:03 a.m. Okay. Interested in love life, anything that looks important. Gemini rising. Bam, bam. Love life. Well, you've had eclipses and all kinds of things wrapping up stuff in your 7th house. You need a really strong Jupiter transit to make something happen. The good news is something is actually coming for you. I see it being more about your career right now. I'm not saying that to move away from relationships, but Jupiter, ruler of your 7th, is in your 10th. So it wants you to do a couple things. Possibly date somebody older, maybe meeting people through work. You know, it might be somebody who's a foreigner or somebody who is very different or from a different place than you. Your North Node in the 10th house is at a 19, which is a Libra degree. So what I find interesting is that Saturn is going to connect with that. So there seems to be almost like Jupiter is trying to say, focus on your career, because it's either going to be somebody that you meet through your career or somebody who supports your career growth. I do feel like dating is very possible and probably going to be smoother the end of October, beginning of November. Some of the best transits that you're going to have, I think, well, there's some clearing out still happening in December, but I'm looking at all these planets going into your 10th house, and I feel like you're going to meet your person. This is very, very strong for you, like March of next year, end of March of 2022, until Jupiter goes into Aries and it comes into a conjunction with your Venus. So it'll be March through June of next year. That's what you really want to look for. Jupiter is husbands. Venus is relationships, unions, somebody who you can go to parties with, somebody who you can introduce to your friends, all of that stuff. So that's going to start coming much more together, for you closer to the spring of next year. I also kind of get the impression that, Uranus on your sun, it's also trying to get you to think about where you want to live. Have you moved? Have you been thinking about moving? Have you been thinking about going to a different city, a further place, spending time in another country? Has that been coming up for you, April? You're going to meet him somehow through work, though. Like that's what's going to happen. You will meet him somehow through work. My guess is that when Saturn makes its second pass, right around the end of next year, is when you start thinking about something more serious. Trying to decide whether or not you really want to lock into that relationship. And Jupiter will be on your Venus. So it'll be really important for you to introduce him to your friends, for you to meet his friends, stuff like that. Socializing will be very important. But I think the second pass of Saturn on your North Node will solidify the relationship. And then Mars starts going retrograde on your ascendant. Do I move? Do I not move? They're here. I'm here. Two different places, going back and forth, right? Or maybe through work you have to travel, or you're talking to somebody in a different place, and that's how it can come together. Thankfully, you're out of, Saturn in opposition to your moon, so that's good. I can see some karmic relationship stuff that's getting sorted out for you, though. That's going to happen at the end of this year. So be mindful that that's going on with the Venus retrograde, back and forth, in and out of your 8th house, back and close to your 7th. It won't drop into your 7th, but you're sorting something out. So you're going to really clear out the past in a very big way. That's going to be a very big transit for you because it's going to square your Mercury. It's your chart ruler. It's whether or not you want to end things, whether or not you're ready for change, whether or not you're willing to welcome in the new. That's some interesting stuff that you're going to go through. Also, that North Node in the 10th, you know, there's this real focus in like segueing and going in the direction of like being with partners who not only support your growth professionally, but they allow you to kind of lay the groundwork at work too. It's like work partners, whatever, bosses, all that stuff. No, what are you saying no to? Okay, I'm open. Watch what happens when Saturn hits your North Node. Saturn is the ruler of your 8th and your 9th house. It means something needs to transform in terms of what you believe in. Jupiter has been there all year. So it's believing that you are in control, believing that you're going to have career success, believing that you're going to meet somebody who has their act together. Like I see that Jupiter-Saturn transit is like, I need somebody who's just as busy as I am, who's just as focused on work or success or responsibility as I am. I don't want to carry somebody else. I want somebody who understands my life and they help me build, not somebody that I need to take care of or not somebody that's not ready, right? You'll hear a lot of horoscopes for Taurus. It's like things like, okay, you know, you're changing, your career's changing. There's all sorts of things shifting, all kinds of stuff like that. Let me know. Hopefully that is helpful. But I definitely think you're going to meet somebody. I would just say, man, those eclipses, there's a new moon at the end of this year. So it kind of seems to me like that new moon in Sag that's coming at the end of this year is setting you up for a clean slate. So even if there's some clearing out that you're doing up until that point, hopefully that was helpful for you. Okay, let's go over to Fiona. Okay. So let's see. So we've got Fiona, and then I think we have Wendy, and then that's it. We're not going to take anybody else tonight. Okay, so Fiona. So bidding war, coming back to you. Okay. Okay, 5576. Oh, and JD also. We've got you, JD. Did you send me your birth information? I'm going to have to scroll up. I'll check it in just a second. It's probably up at the top, so just give me a second. Okay, so let's put in Fiona's info. We're shutting down the readings tonight, guys. We're done for the night. So everybody who's paid, you'll get your reading. Just hang tight. Okay. So 5/5/76, 6 p.m. 6 p.m. Okay, Fiona, let's see what you've got going on here. The bidding war, just knowing what I know about your chart, does not surprise me. A lot of this is all the oppositions that you have to your moon and to your Mars, you know? Would love your perspective on whether or not it's a good idea. Tell me, is it an old house? Is it an old home? Have you done your research into the home? Has it been inspected? That's some questions that I have, especially with Pluto in opposition. Also, it's like, you know, Pluto in the 10th house, it's roots, family roots, whether or not ancestors want you there, whether or not the land wants you there, right? Like sometimes that can happen as well. So there can be some weirdness revolving around the spirits of the property or whether or not your ancestors actually want you to come home. I know that sounds weird, but you know, I have seen stranger things happen. Pluto in opposition to Mars is going to be interesting. Okay, it's by the beach. But has the home been thoroughly looked at? Have you made sure that there's no stress? Okay, have the house inspected. It's very important that you do this. Oftentimes with Pluto, there's something looming. It can be something simple as like issues with pipes or water heaters, plumbing. but it can be costly. And with the oppositions to the moon and Mars, yeah, the bidding wars have been going on because planets have been moving through Cancer. I get the impression that if there's going to be a move or a purchase of the home, if it passes inspection and everything is good to go, then I do get the impression that this will make itself available somewhere closer to when you see maybe Saturn come out of the square with Uranus and planets come into your 12th and get ready to trine. So you would know maybe by about August, but I really want you to have that home inspected. Yeah, I mean, you know, if it's close to family, that's wonderful. I can see where like Pluto stands in opposition to your moon though, where it says like, you know, do you want to be super close to mom? This is just the astrology. Is it smart for you to be really close to mom? What sacrifices are you making in your career? Is it going to be a safe place for the dog to be? Is there a fence? All of these things, because the moon is the dog, the moon is your mom, you know, you have Pluto in opposition to Saturn. Like wherever you end up going to, whatever house you end up buying, it can be an expensive home. It can be expensive to renovate, but it can also be a home that brings you a lot of power, and it's a place that you can have in the family for a very long time. Get an appraisal. Yeah, that's a good idea too. The other thing I will tell you is when Uranus comes into a conjunction again with your south node at a 12, it deals with whether or not there is a move. And to be honest with you, it's like your whole life is going to change in November. I could see like a total segue into going and spending part of your time in another country and being closer to home and kind of going back and forth. And if that's the case, you may go for a number of months and you may actually end up coming back to the States and spending time in the States closer to February, March of 2022. Close to your brother, but not your mom. Okay, I'm just iffy while Pluto is in opposition to your Saturn and your moon. The chart does not want you to live too close to mom. A brother's fine, totally cool. And I would say kind of like a launch would be somewhere in like November or December for like an actual segue and like preparing to move. And just be mindful if you go there for a couple of months, you'll be there, and I don't really see you coming back until the beginning of 2022. So there might be a couple of months where you're there. Also, Pluto on your IC is a huge change revolving around where you live. And it's about bringing you into this feeling of like, okay, I'm powering myself up and I'm feeling very connected to my roots, to my lineage, my ancestry. You know, I see you're born in the UK, but if you have family that's Irish, if you have a lineage from Ireland, your ancestors might actually be calling you. Being that Capricorn also deals with like connecting with your roots and Pluto is the dead, just an idea. May not be a bad thing to like light a candle, burn some tobacco, you know, burn some incense, like sit, meditate, connect with your spirits, connect with your ancestors, being like, look, if it's in alignment for me to move, help me through this process, like help me clear this. And just a word to the wise, when I had Pluto cross my IC, this was like 15 to 18 years ago, I moved. I had a big move. I moved from one state to another state. I had lived in one place my whole life. When I moved to the new location, it was super fucking haunted, okay? Super fucking haunted. It was right when Pluto was crossing my IC. So if you're moving into a house that's an older house, my advice is do what you would do for any new home. Go in, you know, either cleanse the space, do some ritual prayers, do a lesser banishing ritual, put out some salt, burn some things, feed the house, feed the spirits, especially if it's an older house. You always want to feed the spirits in the house to kind of appease them. It would not surprise me. While Pluto is in your 4th house in opposition to Moon and Saturn, your dog starts seeing spirits. It would not oppose me that your mom comes to visit the house and your mom goes, the house gives me the creeps, I don't want to stay here. It would not surprise me if you just feel some vibes. So really feel the house out. And if it's in alignment, the house will go through, everything will work. But I find it very hard to believe that there won't be some kind of paranormal activity in the home, especially with the sextile to Neptune. So if younger kids are in their home, they'll like be talking to things, or the dog will see stuff. Like you're gonna deal with that wherever you go. So just just be mindful that it's gonna be kind of active. So yeah, you know, lesser banishing ritual is great. A white fire is great too. You can take a big pot that you're not going to eat in again, or a cauldron, put a bunch of salt in it, some rubbing alcohol, all kinds of fresh herbs, lavender, rosemary, sage, hyssop, tobacco, whatever you want. and then burn it and like feed the home. It's like to clear and like give offerings to the spirits before you move into it. It's very rare that I see these transits and there isn't some kind of paranormal activity. You'll have to let me know, because I love a good ghost story. And it should be funky and old. It may have stone, or it may have aspects to it that you really enjoy, that's kind of like older. But, you know, I think that if the spirits say yes, you will go. I think with Uranus hitting your south node, it's very likely that you're definitely going to have a huge change and a huge segue. I do think that you will get it. It just makes me wonder, when do you finally settle in? Also, if the house needs any work, do not do the work during the Venus retrograde. So from, let's say, mid-December through February, absolutely no construction. I don't want you doing it. Venus is your chart ruler. You're going to see all the issues with the house that start to come through, and Capricorn's the bones. So let's say you buy the house, you don't look at it, right? And you go in there and you start knocking down walls, and you're renovating things, and you find a fucking body in the yard, like Pluto, right? That's the kind of stuff that can happen. Or you can find that there's decay in the foundation or in the walls, or there's mold in the walls. Like, trust me on this. Thoroughly have the house looked at. Trust me, trust me, trust me. Good luck. Let me know what happens. Send me a text. Obviously, I'm going to come visit you in freaking Ireland. Hello. Say hi to that doggy. I hope that you're doing well. Okay, let's see. So we've got Jessica, we've also got Wendy, and we've also got JD. So we're going to pop on over to JD, and then we will see Wendy and Jessica. And then that will be it for the night. August 1st, 81. $12:58 a.m. Sudbury. Interesting little name. Okay, so I saw you had a bunch of like planets in Leo. You said you were going kind of crazy. Let's see, what is your question? Thank you. Somebody said, I remember having that transit, found out you moved across an African slave graveyard in Richmond. It's no joke. The Pluto transits are like, the house that I moved into, and we didn't find out, it was an apartment. It was on a 3rd-story floor. And they had, it was like the apartment went around a pool, and there was a bunch of bars, obviously, so it was safe. You know, you can't get in between the bars. But I remember seeing, we had a dog at the time, like dog toys just like levitate across the floor. And I thought my mom was like full of shit. I was like, that's not happening. And then I saw it happen, and I was like, oh, hell no. So we were like, we got to get out of here. Come to find out, there was a lady who lived down the hall, and she was like, oh yeah, there was a single mom who lived there like 25 years ago. And she's like, she had a toddler, and the toddler walked between the bars on the 3rd floor and fell and died. And since then, apparently the whole 3rd quarter was very active. So I think it was literally the little boy. I am Jessica, unless another page. No, that's you, JD. What's up, Jessica? What is your question? I saw you said something about you have a lot of like Leo stuff going on. Yeah, holy smokes with these Uranus squares. So you have a reading with me soon. So what is your question? What is going on? Saturn's going retrograde in your 10th house. It's coming back into an opposition with your sun, which is a lot of feelings. Let me know, let me know. See if I can scroll up and find your comments. Let's see. There we go. Torn about getting a reading, have another book, going nuts. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, looking at this, you're getting hit pretty hard, not with just the Saturn opposition, but it's also the Uranus square. So you're seeing a lot of friction from your 12th house to your 10th and to your 4th. Anxiety, trouble sleeping, feeling very anxious. You know, you need more support for your nervous system. You can have a lot of sporadic sleep stuff going on, where it's like you have days where you can't sleep, and you have days where that's all you want to do. This is going to get a little intense again as Saturn comes back into an opposition, and it dings your sun pretty strongly in August. And now Uranus is going retrograde, and it's going to come back to about 10 degrees. So thankfully you're out of the square from Uranus. It's more Saturn in opposition. Saturn, the ruler of your 9th house, needing more prayer, more belief, more of a spiritual practice. What do you need to learn to better integrate into what's going on with your career? Doing so much work on yourself, attachments, feeling, calling to next life, and can't wait to find something about to drop. Yes, about sun, love, or career. I mean, you know, Saturn in opposition to your sun, ruler of the 5th, is like the feeling that you got to show up for work so you can better, you know, support a child, or, you know, people who you live with, or things like that. The reason why this is challenging is because you're a North Node sun in the 4th. So you're more comfortable to, like, you know, where there's more of a focus and an emphasis on like being home, taking care of family, like taking care of, you know, your kid. And Saturn is showing up on your 10th house. It makes me wonder, do you need more responsibility in your career? Do you need a management role? Is there a possibility that some continuing education is in order so that way you can expand your skills? You'll see this in October. You'll see this December through February. These are the 2 times that I want you to pay attention. I actually am really liking the Mercury retrograde that's going to happen in Libra, because it's like whether or not your schedule is actually working for you, if it allows you to show up for work, and if it also allows you to show up for your family. If there does need to be some course correction going on with your day-to-day life or your schedule or your health, it's going to happen in October. I think it's really important for you to look at how much time you're spending and whether or not your job is actually really laying the groundwork to make it possible for you to thrive in your career. The good news is that Jupiter is still trining your Pluto. So it is saying that you need more support from people you're working with, support from partners. Yeah, father's not involved. Well, I mean, here's the thing. As far as I'm concerned, like, part of the opposition to your sun also is your love life. So I'm not saying, like, you know, dating is going to fix everything, but it's definitely going to give you something that's going to feel like it's something to nurture, or somebody who can also support you more so on an emotional level. You've got an eclipse going on your ascendant also this fall. So it's bringing a lot of attention to like what you need for security, self-care, stability, getting you grounded. I also think part of what's going on is just Pluto's coming into an opposition with your Mercury. So you can be kind of stressed out about money. But the truth is like the way out is finding ways to be able to improve the skills pertaining to your professional life. That's the way out. So if you want to make a job change, September, October, you know, January, February, I could see that being a time. Once you come out of these squares, you're not going to have that same pressure. I'm seeing this for a lot of fixed signs, and I'm taking notes because I've got a lot of the same things that are starting to kind of heat up my own chart. So as far as I'm concerned, looking at this, I would say really look at your schedule and whether or not your schedule is going to be providing you with what you need. Make those changes and integrations both in your schedule and your relationships in October and in February. No, job isn't, but looking to get into energy clearing work. Okay, that could work. I mean, your North Node is in the 4th house of emotional care, nurturing, the sun. If you want to get into energy clearing work, number 1, I would say look in September, October for pop-ups or things where you can offer services or other people who might refer to you or vice versa. That's where you start becoming of service. I also would say something pertaining to like childhood trauma healing, womb healing, doing some kind of clearing for women who have had issues with pregnancy or who have had miscarriages, working with women who have had a difficult childhood or issues with their mom. Not just women, but I mean, it's a solar house in the 5th. So it's like, you know, inner child clearing, that kind of stuff. I like Venus in your 5th though, ruler of the 6th. So you might link up with like acupuncturists, intuitives, people who do all types of other like healing work who might refer to you. So I could definitely see that being something that's going to open up. But the bigger thing is that you've got Pluto coming into a trine with your ascendant. So you need to merge with other people. Power is going to come through changing the way that you partner with other people. Actually, Pluto is actually opposing your Mercury and trining your ascendant. So it's trying to get you to really open up and listen also more to your intuition, right? There's going to be a lot of people who are going to be like, I need help, right? You're going to be able to help them, but it's about how you communicate what you can and cannot do. I like all that stuff in Libra too, because I feel like you can really help people, and you're quite a perfectionist, and you might also do some kind of work in like massage, because I see like the 6th house is like service, and like Libra can be the back, so can Leo. So I wonder if you're interested in like not just like energy healing or energy clearing, but like massage work could really work with this as well. Let me know. Hopefully that's helpful. We have a lot to talk about. All right. So we got JD. I know we've got Wendy. Am I missing anybody? Am I missing anybody? We got Wendy. And let me know. Yeah, just Wendy. Last but not least, how are you doing, Wendy? Nice to see you. I saw you said something about dental work. Will my face go back to normal? And I want to know about love and money. Okay. When did you get this dental work done? Don't you have some Capricorn in your chart, Wendy? I feel like you do. For some reason, I thought you do. Let's see. 7/13/65. And that was at 3:34 a.m. Oops. Okay, so let's look here. Pull the chat back up. Yes, Cat Moon. That's what I thought. Well, Wendy, I gotta tell you, Mars and Uranus have been squaring off. Has not necessarily been the best time for anything relating or pertaining to nerves. Had a bad dental reaction yesterday. So Saturn has been squaring with Mars, ruler of your 6th house of health. By the way, Saturn is the bones, the teeth, and the skin, all right? Just a word to the wise. Whenever you see these squares, if you're listening to the horoscope and stuff, like if you hear, hey, Mars is going into Leo, Mars is going into Scorpio, Mars is going into Aquarius, like it will bring up all of this stuff with Saturn. You always have to pay attention to Mars squares. Literally probably one of the worst times you could have gotten any kind of dental work done. Obviously life happens, things come up, but that's part of why this is happening. So will your face go back to normal? Tell me a little bit. You got swelling? What's going on? You've also got... So I think when Mars comes out of these squares, it's going to go down. It's probably just been inflamed. Did you have to have anything extracted? What happened? I believe when these squares are over, you'll be good. But Mars is about to conjunct your Venus. So please... Oh, lip numbing and swelling. Okay, so yeah, to me, it's probably just more inflammation. When you see Venus come out of an opposition with Saturn, I think you're going to see visually things start to come back to normal. Right around July 8th, maybe 9th, it might take as much as a week, okay? But to me, it seems more like it's inflammation. There's another round of this coming. So if you're getting a crown, did you have the crown put in, or did you have the crown prepped and do you have a temporary in? Because I want to tell you whether or not you should go during certain days to have this finished or not. P.S. I used to go to dental school. Hey, that's why I know this stuff. You want to avoid when the sun comes into an opposition with your moon, because your face will be more sensitive. So we definitely want to avoid this like July 8th, 9th, and 10th. We also definitely want to avoid this when the sun is in opposition to Pluto. That'll be around July 17th. And then when the sun goes into Leo and it comes into an opposition with Saturn. So these days you also want to watch out. July 31st through, let's say, roundabout August 4th. Those days are no-fly zones. Prep. Okay. So you don't want to do it during those days in August, and you don't want to do it during those days in July. Avoid those days. Me personally, you want to do dentistry when the moon is in Capricorn. So when are you supposed to go back to get this prep? To get the crown put in. It's like, did he do it at a lab? Is it like going to be 2 or 3 weeks? Oh my goodness. Yeah, I mean, I've heard so many people sent me messages and emails and all kinds of things telling me that they got bad Botox in the last week. You guys want to know when it's a good time? I mean, obviously it depends on your chart, but I'm waiting to do all of that stuff when Mars and Venus go into Virgo and they come into a trine with Uranus and they come into a trine with Pluto. I think it's going to be somewhere, okay, so 2 weeks. So let's look at now. So what is today, the 2nd? So I'm going to tell you the best time to do it. And if you tell your dentist that you're going off of what your astrologer says and he doesn't agree with you, change your dentist. All right, so let's do it something like, here we go. Moon comes into, there's no opposition, Mars in opposition to Jupiter. It's going to be a nice crown, Wendy. Can you go and do this around the 22nd or the 23rd? Let's look. That looks like it's going to be a Thursday or a Friday, 1-2. I know it's pushing it, but I would rather you do this around these days because the moon's going to go into Capricorn. It's going to conjunct Pluto. And yeah, well, I didn't want to be a doctor, so if you can do it during those days, that would be best. I quit. I couldn't do it, guys. It was too much of a square job. I didn't want to be in people's mouths for a living. Now I get to be in people's minds for a living, rent-free. Yeah, do it those days, Wendy. And if you have any issues and that crown comes loose or whatever, the temporary, just put some, you can go to like CVS or whatever, you can get like a temp bond. But trust me, do it when the moon goes into Capricorn. You'll thank me right after that new moon in Cancer. You're going to be able to, you'll be able to chew better too, because there's something going on. Are you having issues chewing? Pre the crown. There's something going on with like either communicating or chewing on one side. I don't know if that's the case, but I can see that in your chart. Love stuff too. I mean, there's a lot of planets that's in your 3rd, but it looks like you don't want to see people in person, that you'd rather just talk. And I'm not saying that because of what's going on with you. It's just, it's all in your 3rd house. So it's communicative, it's texting. It's going to be an interesting retrograde that you have both in October, but later this year. I know I talk about a lot of retrogrades, but I see down the line, love life stuff kind of settles out a little bit better for you after the retrograde later this year. Jupiter's in your 10th house too. So there's like a lot of like possibly changing schedules with where you're working and how you're working, and career really expanding and changing your home life. So be mindful of that. And also just a heads up, Saturn is still trining your Mars. So Mars in Libra in the 4th, you're going to meet a lot of people that are at home. And as Saturn's trining your Mars, it's like you got to go out and you got to go and deal with your health stuff. You got to deal with all of your aesthetic stuff. There might be opportunities to also fix things in your mouth that you need to fix, but they'll look better aesthetically. Cancer survivor, my tongue was cut out and my arm parts been put in place. Oh my gosh. Well, congratulations on surviving. That's amazing. Pluto has been no joke on your moon in opposition to your sun. The fact that you came out of that, wow, way to go. That's amazing. Good for you. Tongue. So the tongue, ruler of your 2nd house. It's your moon. Pluto was on your moon. Oh my gosh. Wow. That's a lot. That's a lot. You're out of the clear though, Wendy. Things get a lot better. Obviously, listen to your doctor. Still keep checking up and making sure you're doing your due diligence to make sure that you're cancer free. But I think when Venus goes retrograde in your 7th house, there's some soulmate coming in. There's some real significant relationship that you're sorting out at the end of this year. Trying to decide whether or not you're really ready to go deeper with someone. And work's like really killer next year. So getting your health in order and doing all of this stuff now is very important. Hopefully that's helpful. Let me know how it goes. I want to see photos of that new crown. Hey. This was a fun one, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Thank you for those of you guys who stayed and learned a little bit and continue to keep supporting the channel. I really appreciate it. I love getting a chance to talk to you guys. I love getting a chance to take a look at your charts and learn more. I learn more every time I do these as well. Just so you know, Wendy, if you do know him, it'll be somebody who will either come back in October or December. I have a feeling it can be somebody who comes back in the past from the past at the end of this year. It'll be the end of this year. But I wouldn't settle too seriously into anything romantically until that happens. The Venus retrograde, ruler of the 5th, is like whether or not you're still in love with somebody. Okay? Let me know how it goes. I'm going to do all kinds of stuff on this. I imagine that the retrogrades and the October Mercury retrograde in Libra is going to be very interesting because it's going to be a lot of people reassessing relationships from the past, and it's going to be a lot of people deciding if they can be friends or not. And then the Venus retrograde is always colorful. Venus retrograde in your 7th can bring back a soulmate, Wendy. Hey. All right, guys, you enjoy your weekend. Thanks for stopping by. If you like my reading style, you want to book a reading with me, check out my links below. Check out my Instagram, all my social media, my website. I've got some openings available in August and September. Get on the books with me while I have some time this summer. It's going to be a wild one, especially if you're a fixed sign. You have any comments or any questions, please leave them below. I always love interacting with you guys online. Those of you guys in the States, have a happy 4th of July weekend. Enjoy yourselves, and I will see all of you guys very soon. Take care.